Hello and welcome to another episode of the HouseCast. Today with us we have Gregory Louden. He is the narrative director on Returnal. Tell us a bit more about yourself, Greg.
Sure, yeah. So, as Mikhail said, I'm the narrative director on Returnal. I'm also directing the cinematics that we have in the game. And my job encompasses lots of different things. It ranges from what our main character Celine says, all the way to how our story interacts with the art and the art direction, up to how our story interacts with the sound design and the music, and of course, as I mentioned, the cinematic moments we have in the game. This is a really exciting position for me at Housemarque because it's the first big Housemarque sort of story being a bigger element. So yeah, really proud and excited to chat to you more about Returnal. It's a big change, but the key thing for us from the narrative team working on Returnal is we don't want to compromise the gameplay. It's about keeping everything that Housemarque does really well and then blending in a really deep and interesting narrative as well.
So this is interesting because, as you mentioned, narrative has always been a bit to the side and not at the forefront of most Housemarque games thus far. So it's very a new thing to get into this more. And what I really like about the way Returnal takes it is that it really looks at narrative within games. You know, games are a very different art form from movies, for example. So there are lots of different ways to push the envelope and create new ways that we couldn't even think about in the past. So how would you say that we're taking leaps into this sort of a maybe a bit more undiscovered area of storytelling now?
Sure, yeah. I think Returnal overall is a really, obviously, interesting concept. So, as you probably know, it's a dark sci-fi action thriller. So we already have that set up, which already gives lots of potential possibilities of where a story could go. But then something that's just inherently built in is the cycle. So if you've been watching these, you're probably well aware that Returnal is about a deep space scout who crash lands on a planet. I can tell you its name is Atropos. And when she crashes on Atropos, she basically succumbs to the elements. And when she does and she dies, unfortunately, death is no escape. She wakes up again back in the cockpit of a ship as it crash lands into Atropos. So already we have a lot to play with just from that thing. And once we have that set up, the question is, how do we tell that, as you said, in something that's inherently strong as a game? So obviously, as we do have some roguelike elements and lots of different other things happening in the game, it allows us to kind of question, how does a character react to being in a cycle? How does their mindset evolve? How do they react to the world? How does the world react to this character? So it has lots of different potential opportunities. The other key thing that we've done when we've been designing the narrative of Returnal, as I mentioned, is not trying to interject with Housemarque's explosive action or other sort of key game design or level design elements. If anything, we've gone through this mindset of it kind of blends with the experience. So we have lots of different techniques. I think some of the ones I'm very excited by is stuff like the fact that when Celine first arrives on Atropos, she can actually fairly early on just find one of her own corpses, which obviously once again raises even more questions. Why is her corpse here? And on top of that, this same corpse will actually have a recorder, which will have a message from a previous version of Celine, or maybe a future version.
I think I am reliving my memories in that house, but not fully. They're corroded. Some parts are missing, others seem manufactured. But I can remember the torment, feeling like I was losing my mind. There's no comfort here. No safe space. Exactly as I left it.
And basically, just from these logs alone, we can give you a lot of different narrative. And the benefit of that is it doesn't compromise the gameplay, it doesn't interrupt, it's something that you choose. And once you have that, we can start building on lots of other different things and provide different perspectives across different timelines and really play with some non-linear storytelling. Another big element, I can obviously talk about this for a long time, is Celine is not alone on the planet. There's obviously all of these creatures, but there's also what she begins to find as an extinct alien civilization. So as you, the player, is exploring with Celine through Atropos, there's both the human story, but there's also the story of this alien civilization to uncover.
Is this translating correctly? Severed brethren. Maddening agony?
Yeah, that sounds very interesting because for me, the game has a layered approach. Because as you go through the loop, the game always gives you a little bit more of course, gameplay, but also the narrative. And then there's a layered approach from the fact that all of that world building and narrative comes through the audio logs and little things in the background in a way that you don't have to actively participate. And the fact that it's a non-linear story, you can jump around a lot and everything. So I think that it's a very interesting approach, and it adds a lot without distracting. But one of the things, key component to this whole thing is Celine, the main character of our game. And you also mentioned that we have her sort of react to that cyclical nature and what that does to somebody's mind. I think it's very interesting. But can you go a bit more into Celine, and then maybe some of the things we'll learn about her, or how do we experience everything through her?
Sure. Yeah, I think Celine is, as we're doing with our story, is someone that inherently is very layered and is quite a complex character. So for you as the player, when you start Returnal, as you've seen in some of our trailers, Celine arrives onto this alien planet, Atropos, and is drawn there by a signal, White Shadow. And essentially, as she comes to this planet, we don't tell you initially what this signal is, why she is coming there, and who she is. That's something that you discover as you play through. But what I can say about Celine is that she is experienced. She is an Astra Deep Space Scout. So essentially, her role is to be exploring the deepest parts of space and looking for things. And while she's doing one of her surveys, she does find this message. And this White Shadow message is something that she can't turn away from, and it's something that she needs to discover and understand. So I think another thing that I could say about Celine is that she's driven to a fault. So for her, all the warning signs are there that this planet may not be, it even says forbidden, from her Astra systems and from her mothership. Basically, this planet has signals that seem unrecognizable and it deserves more survey, but she rushes right into this because she needs to get answers to this question that she's provided with.
So looking deeper into Celine, she seems very resourceful, and there's a lot of things she undertakes on the planet. Can you tell us a bit more about the kind of things and the way she approaches this mysterious planet?
Sure. So as I said, Celine is an Astra Deep Space Scout. She's driven to a fault, and she's quite a complex character, but she's also highly intelligent. So from her training and also just from her drive, she finds early on within the cycle and on Atropos, our mysterious planet, that she can't survive unless she begins to use this alien technology. So the only way for her to fight forward and to get answers is that she has to begin to almost lose her humanity. She needs to take this xenotech, which is our alien technology, and basically graft it onto her suit. She needs to use parasites, which are these creatures on the planet you've seen in our trailers that can go up and jump on her, that essentially give her both benefits but also some disadvantages she needs to manage. She needs to use her technology that she has from her spacesuit to scan everything and understand. And not everything is simple or should just be picked up or examined. So for players, when you are playing as Celine, it is a question of pros and cons. Do you use this parasite, which may take things away? Do you use this technology, which you can tell may actually have some other impacts? as well as just weaponry. We've shown a lot of some of our different alien technology weapons. The only thing that's human in Returnal is Celine, her pistol, and the ship. Everything else you find is alien technology. So she has to use all of this in order to fight forward and find answers. I think it's a really exciting thing. So for our storytelling of the production design and the sound design, it's been really cool to make like a really amazing sort of sci-fi experience for players.
Yeah, so it's very interesting to see Celine coming into this alien environment and then having to, adapt a lot of that very alien technology and lose her humanity at the same time to be able to push forward. And not only kind of losing yourself as a player, you're understanding her story better, but then the psychological stuff will start adding on. First you start sort of feeling a kinship towards Celine, but then you start understanding the planet and the other inhabitants and how they survived, or how they came to be as well. So there is different layers of quote-unquote humanity there to be discovered. So I do think that it's a very interesting premise.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's something that early on with Returnal, we knew that we wanted to tell a story that was as dense and as layered as the gameplay, and also something that you can replay. To me, something that's haunting is something that doesn't leave you. So with our story, it is the type of story where you're going to be dropped right into the deep end with Returnal. And the more that you sort of choose to engage with the story and choose to question things and explore things with Celine, we've actually designed it that you arrive with Celine with the same amount of information on the alien planet. You don't know Celine, but you know the same amount of information as she goes through. So it's something that, like I said early on, Harry and all the team here at Housemarque have been discussing with the narrative, that it would be really special to try to combine this replayability in the story as well.
Thank you so much, Greg. It's been a wonderful, insights into Returnal, and we can't wait to get this out there for everybody. So thanks again, Greg, and see you on the next episode.
PlayStation